We're joined by Sam Amadi, Director, Abuja School of Social and Political Thoughts. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight. Let's take it from where Adeswa, ended that report, where, as you said, well, according to the president, our reforms are working.
Well, first, brilliant report.
Would that be your assessment of the last 2 years of this administration?
Some are working. All reforms work because they are happening. But we'll look at impact and outcome. But I think that, look, the starting point is to say that where President Tinubu has done far better in economic development, economic policy outcome, compared to Buhari. I mean, it's good that two of them came out, For example, when Buhari handed over with less than, $10 billion, reserve, foreign reserve.
Yeah.
That's like almost like madness. You can't even finance a 1 month import. And now they are getting somewhere to crossing 550 and so on and trading. So a plus. Now, if you look at the arbitrage, where people are just, even Ways and Means grew to over $30 billion. So he has really pushed the economic reform, stabilized the monetary policy. There's now some sanity with how the monetary policy is being managed. You can see that the unification of the exchange window, and then of course the flotation cost some will say maybe a managed float would have been better. But again, what they have done has taken off the racketing in foreign exchange that we saw at the height of Buhari's administration. So he has done better. But we've not seen the level of fiscal discipline we want, with borrowings and, of course, wastage and corruption. I mean, even the president talked about relooting the recoveries. So we've not seen, so at the level of those economic reforms, some people will argue that he has done better than Buhari. He has actually stabilized, created more fiscal and monetary stability than Buhari left us. But these have not, the level of fiscal discipline that we need, the level of reason of cost of governance, you see skyrocketing cost of governance. And we see also he has not been able to manage corruption, right from the beginning with some of the officials who are indicted. And so you can say on the economic front, yes, some of the policies in terms of macroeconomic stability may be better than, but again, they have not translated to the level of investors' confidence. We've not seen the degree of international foreign investment into the country. We've not also seen expansion. The GDP growth has not been very significant in terms of sustaining the level of economic growth and well-being we want. If you look at HDI, we're doing very badly. We're not doing well. So if you look at the latest, if you look at the latest YPro on infrastructure and innovation, we are actually the worst in West Africa, interestingly. So basically, the economic cluster, that's areas that are doing well. They're more disciplined, more monetary or fiscal control. But again, the growth in the economy is not happening as required. We're still, the energy cost arising from removal of subsidy and all that is also, contracting the production capacity, affecting medium and small enterprises. But ultimately, the poverty rate you can see is going from 41% in 2018, or thereabout, to about 47, and now we're 20 to 50-something% of very poor people. So you give and take, I would score the president perhaps a little below 50% in terms of economy. So that's his best spot, because we can say that somehow, from threshold where it's coming from, we've seen some degree of stability and improvement and better governance of macroeconomic indicators. Yeah, but if you flip,
but can we also consider the time for midterm? Like Senator Adams Oshomole was saying that you need to consider where you're coming from and where you are before you're able to assess, what you're doing. In the time of 24 months, do you think that that mark below 50 you've given, we could see is a fair mark? But also, I wanted to ask you about the political direction of the administration. How do you describe that? When I say political direction, I mean democracy, civil space.
Okay, so let's first stay on the half-year mark, whether it's significant. Look, you can assess anybody, for example, we do 100 days assessment. It's an assessment. So this assessment does not preclude where he will land in the second half of his tenure. It simply says right now, he is, if you define economic management, what Dudley Sear says, 3 indicators: what's happening to poverty, what's happening to inequality, what's happening to employment. We're doing very badly. Poverty is growing, inequality is growing, unemployment, even with the rebasing of inflation, we are still about 24%. Okay, if you look at unemployment, even with the rebasing, we are still significantly unemployment. Youth unemployment, some states have more. So these indicators, they are not very good. But again, if you just consider these reforms as bold, you know, Nigerians talk about bold, but the question is, are they wise? I don't think that floating the naira the way we did was wise, considering that we're not an export. But some people argue that where Buhari left him, there was no fiscal space to do anything, manage float or the subsidy, to face the removal of subsidy, because the fiscal space was shrunken by Buhari's mismanagement. But again, it's ironic, because this is a president who says, I will continue where the president. And so in this, going to the second campaign,
be careful for what you wish
exactly,
for.
his people are now fighting hard to hit Buhari and said the economy was very damaged, it was a repair job we did. So, but now moving to politics, I think that where the president has failed big is, after Buhari, he needed to create a new platform, reframing, and 3 things were required. One, the Buhari presidency was a lot divisive, issues about ethnicity, 97 versus 5% and all that. So the president had an opportunity to create a more inclusive governance. Today we're still talking about allegation of the Federal Civil Service appointment dominated by one section. I don't think he has done enough to recreate that national unity. I think that secondly, corruption has been an issue. And from where he's coming from, allegations around corruption, issues about alleged drug, alleged this and that, the president needed to set a tone, a different tone, and that shows by staffing. The people he brought to government should deliberately be persons who carry some degree of credibility. But we saw at the beginning that he was ruffled by what happened in the humanitarian ministry. So this idea of lack of transparency has continued. But the biggest issue here is the democracy, and that the River State remains a problem because it was unnecessary. He could have resolved that problem without truncating democracy. So if you ask me, half year is not the end of the tenure. There's room for improvement. But I would say that he has done well if you consider where it's coming from in terms of Buhari economically, but the impact has not been felt, and the policies need to be, you have to rethink those policies to give them the level of capability they have. And again, politically, I don't think he has performed well.
And security-wise, there'll be a lot is needed to be done.
We are struggling with security.
But we'll have to leave it there.
Sure.
Dr. Sam Amadi, it's a continuing conversation. Of course, tomorrow, May 29 is the day it clocks exactly 2 years that this president would be in the saddle. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you.